Hi, it's Tootie Tagerly coming to you from San Francisco on the West Coast, a little bit before noon on a Tuesday. And today, very timely after the events of the last couple of weeks, the surge of layoffs across the tech industry, I'm going to talk about how to be when you've been laid off. Um, and the reason why B is capitalized is something from my coach training and something that I talk about a lot is doing versus being. And we are so trained as high achieving, driven professionals to do, get a bunch of shit done. That's the system of OKRs and performance reviews and all of these things. And I'm sure if you have been laid off or if you know people that have been laid off, there is a frenetic busyness of doing, an almost panicked busyness of doing, around let's take a look at the finances. Let's see if I can negotiate the severance. Let's see if I can, transfer my work phone number to my personal phone so I don't lose contact with friends and family, dust off the resume, start networking. There's a lot of doing, which makes a ton of sense. And that's the mode that we can be in. That's the mode we can do in. That's the mode where we just keep doing all of these things. So this talk isn't about that. This talk is about the being when you've been laid off, because that's the stuff that we prioritize a lot less in our work in our society. And I would argue both the being and doing are important. If I was teaching a group of meditation or yoga practitioners, it would be much more about the doing and the structure and the accountability. But my community of professional, hard driving, high achieving professionals, often in tech, y'all, we are bad at the being and we're really good at the doing. So that's why this is how to be when you've been laid off. And I want to say that, fuck, this shit's heartbreaking. And I've talked to so many people over the last week from Twitter, from Facebook, many people that I know personally, and damn, it feels hard. Feels hard through the day, the weeks, and I get that. Just super heavy, and it'll be okay. Promise, it will be okay. So, how to be when you've been laid off? First thing, remember all your identities beyond work. I think that working in tech, whether it's for a name brand FANG company or whether it's for a startup, we get a lot of value and worth through our work identity. It's the thing people ask when you meet them at a cocktail party. What do you do? And damn, it feels good to say, "Oh, I run a large design team at Facebook." And it's even more exacerbated if you're a startup founder or co-founder, where it's really hard to separate your identity from your work identity as this startup founder who's poured in, money, gotten money from friends and family around that. And it can be a really devastating identity shift when you're laid off because work's not your family. It was a business arrangement, and much as tech companies like to work hard, play hard together, it was a business arrangement. So something that can really help right now, and a way to be when you've been laid off, is taking solace in all of your other identities and finding the time and spaciousness to pour love and attention into your other identities, whether it's as a parent, um, focusing time on your kids, whether it's as a runner, whether it's as a reader, whether it's as a friend, really pouring energy into these other identities, because these are all a part of you, and these are often other identities that have been neglected because you have been wrapped up in your work identity. And I know that because I've done this. I've been laid off multiple times, and it's about finding and remembering these other identities. A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, one of the things that he said, he's a surf buddy, is like, "Well, at least I this is happening when, man, some of the best winter swells are hitting right now." And yeah, he was out surfing this morning, really embracing his identity as a surfer. So, it's about remembering all these other identities beyond work. And if you're one of the people who is still working and seeing this stuff happening around you, remember all your other identities in this scenario too, because it's hard to be a survivor. You're you're devastated to see some of your colleagues disappear, especially in the case of Meta. You don't know who was laid off because of this lack of information transparency. And I think this applies to everyone, the people who are laid off and the survivors. Second tip, make space for the emotions. The emotions is the core part of being. And yeah, they're all welcome. It is sad when you're laid off. There is grief. There is all the stages of grief hitting, from like the anger, the shock, the bargaining. I don't think I can do them all, but all of these emotions are great and they're real. I remember the first time that I was laid off, I was doing an impossible job balancing 2 jobs, and the first feeling was just relief. Thank goodness I don't have to do this anymore. And of course, it gets, replaced with like panic, shock, fear. Can how do I sustain my family? How am I going to make money? How long is unemployment going to last? What about Cobra? All of this stuff. And yeah, all the emotions are part of the process. Um, Jealousy, envy. You might be like ridiculously jealous of all the people who still have jobs. Or if you're a survivor, you might be like, man, I wish I could be the person who could not work and have like 4 months of severance. Look, these emotions are real. You don't have to like suppress or deny them because they're ugly, because they're unseemly or negative. They're all there. Just let them feel, let them flow through. I'll drop in the comments, at least in LinkedIn, that one of the things that really helps is to sit with this. And one of the best meditations that I found is Tara Brach's RAIN meditation, RAIN. Oh, let's see if I can do this. I think it stands for recognize that the emotion is here, allow, simply let it be. So, for example, like when I feel anger, it's usually here. It's just like a tension, tense, and like a rigidity in my like shoulders, just like allowing that emotion be. I think I is inquiry. I don't know. Be curious. Get curious about the emotion. Though, know that it's okay to be angry. Know that it's okay to be jealous of a colleague who's been laid off. Because, man, wouldn't it be wonderful to have some time off? But then you're like, oh, I shouldn't feel that way. Just let go of the shoulds. And then N is nurture. Do whatever it takes to make you feel better. One of my personal trainers, when I was angry, he would give me this slam ball just to be like, bam, bam. Some of that's nurturing. It lets the anger out. Going outside, taking a walk in nature, surfing for me, whatever it is that nurtures you in that anger. But part of how to be when you're laid off is making space for those emotions. And then finally, the wise words of one of my coaches, Dory Clark, from her book, is really play the long game. I work with a lot of people in career transitions and people who've been laid off, and the immediate doing is, fuck, I gotta get another job. And it's natural. It makes sense. I do and have done the exact same thing. So do all that, but also think about the long game. Also think about, you might not need to take the first job that comes along. Think about what are the characteristics of a company that you want to work for, of leadership that you want to work for, of the position that you want, maybe of the industry that you want, and start going into maybe a slower research period. Yes, severance may run out on January 31st, but it would be better to really consider what the right next position is and start the new right job on April 1st. Maybe not the best choice of dates, than it is on February 1st, because you might find yourself in the exact same position. If you don't take a moment to really think about the patterns and values and scenarios that you want to be in your workplace, playing this long game where you have a career of decades and decades, um, and just thinking about this atmosphere of abundance, not scarcity, take a moment to be and play the long game. And I know it sounds easy for me to say that. And I've been in these scenarios. And I've been in these scenarios where, as a tech worker, I believe that we have savings. It's not going to be pleasant to feel like you're drawing from savings, but it's going to be okay for a couple months. So really, how to be when you've been laid off is think about the long game. Know that right now it's November 15th. And yeah, there's going to be some time to spend with family if you're in the US, with Thanksgiving, with the holidays coming up. And it's okay to take a breath and a rest for a moment. And I know you're still going to be doing all the doing stuff, and know that it's also okay to be and play the long game and it's slow. All right, so this was it for today. 3 points of how to be when you're laid off to mitigate the doing that I know is happening. Remember all your identities beyond your work identity. Make space for emotions. It's a cauldron of emotions right now. Make space for all of that. And then finally, play the long game. You'll be okay. You'll get another job. That's it for now. I'll see you next week. Bye.